What if the greatest act of leadership isn't leading others, but loving yourself? What if burnout isn't caused by doing too much, but by forgetting who you are beneath the doing? In the world that rewards perfection, the real mastery lies in self compassion, in leading from love, not fear. This is the secret that ancient mystics knew and the modern psychology is finally proving. Today, we will explore the power of self love in leadership. Welcome to the Manifestation Mystic Show, where ancient wisdom meets cutting edge science. I'm Bindu Bodanapu, a former finance leader turned spiritual wellness and leadership coach and a researcher in consciousness and metaphysics, an awardee at the British Parliament, TEDx Speaker, and a student of the ancient mystery schools. My mission is to help you awaken the leader within. This show is designed for executives and leaders who are ready to expand awareness, unlock abundance, and lead with conscious intention. Because true leadership begins within, and when you master your inner world, your outer world transforms. In today's fast paced world, most leaders are celebrated for resilience, execution, and results. But here is the truth nobody talks about. Performance without compassion leads to pressure, not power. I see this constantly in my work with executives and entrepreneurs. They push harder, achieve more, yet feel emptier. Why? Because they have abandoned the one person who needs their love most, which is themselves. Research from mindful self compassion programs by Dr. Kristin Neff and Dr. Chris Germer shows that self criticism activates the body's threat system, releasing cortisol and adrenaline, your body's stress chemicals. Over time, this creates what I call silent burnout, that emotional exhaustion that comes not from the workload but from self judgment and inner disconnection. Leaders who neglect self love seek approval instead of alignment, overgive but rarely receive, punish themselves harder when what they really need is rest and reflection, mistake self punishment for motivation. Here is what I've learned: without self compassion, leadership becomes survival. With self compassion, it becomes service. And the gap between the two, it's the difference between dimming your light and letting it shine. Now let's travel back thousands of years to the timeless wisdom of the ancients. Buddha taught, "You yourself, as much as anybody in this entire universe, deserves your love and affection." This wasn't sentimentality, but it is a spiritual science. He understood that the root of suffering is disconnection from your own true self, and the path to peace is compassion for that self. When you reject yourself, you create inner conflict. When you embrace yourself, you create inner peace. And the peaceful leaders, they transform organizations. Rumi, the great Sufi poet, echoed this truth centuries later. Do not feel lonely. The entire universe is inside you. He was reminding us that love isn't something we earn, it is something we remember. And when leaders remember this, they stop chasing validation and start radiating authenticity. Now let's step into the ancient wisdom of the Greeks, where philosophy met self mastery. Socrates said, "Know thyself." These two words were inscribed at the temple of Apollo in Delphi, the spiritual center of Greece. It wasn't just advice, it was leadership principle. Because self knowledge without self love is just analysis, but self knowledge with self love, that's wisdom. When you meet your own emotions with kindness, you give the clarity to respond, not react. You stop being a slave to your inner critic and become the conscious architect of your life. Think of it this way: Greek wisdom invites leaders to lead their minds. Buddhist wisdom invites them to lead with their hearts. Rumi invites them to lead with the soul. And together, they whisper this profound truth: the highest leadership is self leadership, rooted in love. Now, let's bridge the timeless with the modern. Mindful self compassion is now recognized by psychology as a core resilience skill, not as a soft luxury, but a hard necessity for sustainable success. Studies shows that people who practice self-compassion have 40% lower stress levels, significantly reduce their burnout risk, greater emotional intelligence, improved decision making under pressure. Why does this work? Because compassion soothes the nervous system. It sends a signal to your body saying, I am safe, I am supported, I can handle this. When you make a mistake, instead of spiraling into shame, self compassion rewires the brain for growth. It activates the ventral vagal nervous system, your body's rest, digest, and connect mode. Think about this. Burnout isn't physical exhaustion, it's emotional depletion caused by chronic self judgment. When you believe you must always be strong, perfect, or in control, you disconnect from your humanity. And when that happens, your leadership becomes mechanical, not magnetic. But when you bring mindfulness and kindness into that space, something becomes magical. Your brain releases oxytocin and serotonin, the biochemicals of calm, connection, and creativity. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for wise decision making, comes back online. You move from reactive survival mode to responsive thriving mode. Let me be crystal clear: self love isn't indulgence, it's a neurochemical advantage for high performing leaders. It's the competitive edge nobody's talking about. Let's bring this back to you, to the choice you make every single day. As a leader, we often chase approval from our teams, boards, clients, investor, or even society. We curate our image, we perform our competence, we hide our struggles. But here is what I've discovered: every time you lead for approval, you lose a piece of your authenticity. True leadership says, I lead from truth, not from the need to be liked. Because authenticity inspires trust far more than perfection ever will. People don't follow perfect leaders, they follow real ones. When you love yourself, you no longer perform, you embody. You stop trying to prove your worth and start moving from your wholeness. You give permission to be a human, to make mistakes, to not to have all the answers, to evolve. And that permission, it's contagious. When your team sees you treat yourself with compassion, they learn to do the same. When they see you lead from authenticity, They feel safe to bring their full selves to work. That's when people don't just hear your words, they feel your energy. And that energy creates cultures of trust, innovation, and genuine connection. Now, let's get practical because wisdom without application is just philosophy. Here are three transformative practices you can start today. The first one, the mirror method. Each morning, before you check your phone or dive into your emails, look into your own eyes in the mirror. Place your hands on your heart and say, I am enough. I am worthy. I am love. Say it until it feels true because truth is repetition remembered. At first, this might feel awkward. That's your conditioning resisting. Keep going. Your nervous system is listening. The second one, the compassion pause. When something goes wrong, a mistake, a failure, a setback, pause. Don't spiral, don't self attack. Instead, place your hands on your heart and breathe deeply. Whisper to yourself, it's okay, I'm learning. I choose to love over judgment. Feel your nervous system soften. Feel your shoulders drop. This practice interrupts the shame cycle and activates your inner ally. The third one, the mindful check in. 3 times a day, morning, midday, and evening, ask yourself, am I leading with authenticity or approval? Am I treating myself like someone I love? That single question can shift your energy instantly. It brings back to center, back to truth, back to love. As we close this episode, I want you to remember the deepest truth. You are love. Leaders who love themselves don't burn out, they light up. They lead not to prove but to uplift, not from exhaustion but from inner equilibrium, not from fear but from freedom. In the words of Greece philosopher Plato, the part can never be well unless the whole is well. Your leadership is only as strong as your inner relationship with yourself. Your external impact is only as sustainable as your internal compassion. So, today I invite you to become your own greatest ally, to practice compassion as your core leadership strategy, to lead from love and watch how everything else aligns. Because when you love yourself, your leadership becomes not just effective, it becomes divine. You become a beacon, not a burnout, an inspiration, not an impostor, a force of nature rooted in the wisdom of the ages. Thank you for spending time with me on the Manifestation Mystic Show, where ancient wisdom meets cutting edge science. In today's episode, we touched your heart, shared this with your fellow leaders, and who needs this reminder. And remember, you are not here to be perfect, you are here to be whole. Your journey towards abundance, clarity, and higher awareness is unfolding one conscious breath at a time. Until next time, keep rising, keep leading, and keep awakening the limitless potential within you. I'm Bindu Bodanapu, grateful for your presence and energy today. Look forward to seeing you in the next episode.